Hey guys, welcome to Legally Owned America. We have a ton of stuff that we're working on. It's a mess in here, guys. I am not going to be able to see a whole lot of y'all's comments tonight because I have a very dead iPad, very dead. This thing has been charging for probably about 5 minutes now. So I'm not going to be able to see comments, do many shout outs or anything of that nature, simply because I do not have access to that right now. However, I will do all of that as soon as that becomes available on said dead iPad. Yeah, I can't find my I can't find my maxi pad. I can't find my big iPad because I'm blind as a bat. I can't find the thing. I don't know where it's at. I've hunted everywhere. So I had to pull out one of the medium pads, and it's dead. It hadn't been charged in probably a month. So I know it's dead. So anyway, welcome to Legally Owned America's live stream on Friday night. This is our Friday night live show. Guys, we got a lot going on. I may try to cut this a little bit short tonight because I've got a lot of things that I'm working on. One of the coolest things, and I wish I had some pictures for it, because it's actually on my phone, which I'm recording on right now, since I was going to record on this also. We have a new, if you guys have been following the show, you know that we've had basically a range Jeep, a Legally Owned American. I call it the Warthog because it was a really ugly Jeep. And it was a 1997 Jeep that I rebuilt. And here recently I have basically sold that and got a newer Jeep, one that I can really do a lot more with, because obviously the newer the vehicle, the better the aftermarket parts and things like that. So I've got a new Jeep that I'm working on right now. Man, it's looking cool. It's looking really cool. I'm about halfway through. I'm doing a lot of the work myself, and down in my garage I'm applying the decals to it, and it's a white Jeep, and I'm putting what's the best way to describe them, like a black and gray urban camouflage paint job, but the digital urban camo paint job, or decal job, all on the sides of it. So it's going to be really cool, man. I've done a lot of work to it, a lot of body work to it, grill, bumpers, hood, fenders, even done some engine work. I've put some pipes on it and cold air intake. So I'm used to driving a V8, and this thing with a V6, and you got a over 4,000 pound vehicle, it doesn't have a whole lot of get up and go. So I'm doing some things to try to generate a little bit more horsepower. Anyway, I know that this is not a gearhead show, so I don't want to bore anybody out there, but that's what I've been working on, and I'm trying to complete the decal job tonight, if at all possible. We've got some pretty crappy weather this weekend, so that's going to keep me working on that. Anyway, man, we missed, iPad's come back up. We missed, I think it was last week, was Easter. We did not do any of the Friday Night Live show, and I apologize for that. I actually thought that we were going to. Let's see, with it being Easter weekend, Thursday night, we went to a concert. Friday night, we had friends over and we ate boiled crawfish. My Apple ID is, my phone's telling me my ID is being used on another device. Ate boiled crawfish Friday night, which was when we would have been doing this. So we had company come over, and then Saturday night we went to another concert. So again, my bad on that. I wish I would have put something out because some of you guys had emailed me asking. Nevertheless, we are back finally, and I'm excited to get these live streams going again. We're actually going to, at some point, start taking these live feeds and moving them into a podcast also. I don't know if any of you guys out there pay attention to podcasts, but we are going to be doing that very, very soon. We'll be having, if you missed the live show, we will push it off onto a podcast where you can listen to it in your car. But on top of that, we'll be doing additional podcasts outside of this Friday Night Live show. It's called High Capacity Podcast is what it's going to be. It's going to be kind of cool. Again, we can reach more people. Chad, myself, and Laura, who are pretty much the backbone of Legally Owned America, we are also working on some pretty cool stuff. Hopefully, we'll be doing some Apple TV and possibly like Hulu and Roku to try to get into some other forms of media where you guys can actually watch us on your television. I know you can watch YouTube on your television, but we're trying to go into some other arenas right now. It just exposes us to some other things out there. One thing I would like to point out, if it's possible, I know you guys out there that are watching, most of you are already subscribers here on Legally Armed America. If you're not, could you subscribe to us and maybe share to your friends and family, Facebook, Instagram, Gun District, wherever you're at, and ask them to subscribe. Guys, it's kind of a cool milestone for us. I remember way back whenever we hit 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. That was a big deal to us. I mean, I remember when we had 300 subscribers, and it was a big deal to me. I mean, we are regular, average, everyday gun guys, so we don't take ourselves too seriously. So when people are following us and befriending us, and we're interacting with them online, it's flattering to us. Again, it's not. We know that we're no better than anybody else watching and interacting with us, so it's kind of cool. Of course, we follow hundreds of channels out there ourselves. So when we hit 300 is a big deal to me. We hit 10,000, I was like, wow. In fact, when we hit 10,000, YouTube started doing things with us before they became totally anti-gun, and actually were really cool to us. They were, allowing us to do certain things and all that. Well, we're less than 4,000 away from reaching 100,000 subscribers, guys. We have 96,000 and change subscribers right now. So my point to you is, man, if you don't know anybody out there that's, not already subscribing to us, if you could, ask them if they wouldn't mind checking us out. And if they, like what they see, if they could go ahead and subscribe, because, well, we'd really like to get over that 100,000 subscriber mark. That's a huge milestone to me. I'm going to feel eternally grateful to everybody out there that takes part in our stuff. As you guys know, for the most part, most of the parts of the year, we're pretty much going to talk about guns in general, do gun reviews, talk about ammo. But as most of you have probably noticed, we have been, and I'm trying to log in over here, so I apologize for my delays. It's really hard for me to think and do two things at the same time, guys. Oh, naturally, it can't find my Google account. Go figure. But here lately, what's been dominating the headlines for us, and at least our attention, I should say, is the very fact that there are just a barrage of gun bills and things like that people are coming after us, trying to take our Second Amendment rights away. And it absolutely drives me nuts that you constantly hear this continuous little blurb from the people on the left and the ones who really do want to take your guns, saying, oh, nobody wants to take your guns away, when we all know that's not true. We really know that that's the end goal for all of them, and that they would really like to do that. I would like to at least explain to you guys that probably became subscribers and followers of ours over the years. We've been doing this for over 5 years now. That I appreciate you guys sticking with us. I know some people don't care for politics, and I'm not trying to make Legally Armed America a political show, but let's face it, guys, if we're going to stand up for our Second Amendment rights, at some point we have to dip our toe into the deep end and realize that we are all in this together. I've actually had people on our, excuse me one second, I've actually had people comment on some of our videos, oh, you're talking about politics, you lost me, I'm unsubscribing. Buddy, unsubscribe, I'm okay with that. I'm not one of these guys that's going to sit back and be a, quote, gun guy whenever it benefits me, just whenever it benefits me. I'm also the guy that's going to step up to the plate and fight for the rights that a lot of people take for granted. I don't mind telling you, I've taken my gun rights for granted over the years. There have been times whenever our gun rights, all during the Bush years, I never felt like my gun rights were under a direct attack. Never did. Even though the Democrats tried, I was becoming of age, in my early 20s, around the time when the Clinton assault weapons ban was ending. The sunset was ending on it. So I saw it. Again, my first gun was that I actually purchased outright, besides the ones that my family had gotten me, was a Glock with only a 10-round magazine in it, because we were right in the middle of the gun ban, the Clinton gun ban. So it's kind of like we all saw, as I got older, all of, really good things with guns. In other words, we went from a ban to being able to access pretty much anything we wanted to, other than fully automatic weapons. And so we've had a pretty good time, you know. And then when Obama got in there, I really felt like we were constantly under attack. And right now we've got Trump in there. Yeah, Trump's supposed to be on our side, but who would know it, you know? We've got bills coming at us every single direction in Washington, D.C. And one thing that I've noticed lately, I think that this is not an accidental effort. I believe that what's happened is, if you notice, all of the proposed gun bills, and I'm not saying the ones at the federal level have gone away, but most of your proposed gun bills recently have all become at the state level. Have you noticed that? You've noticed that your anti-gun legislators, your state legislators, have become really, really active, where before they kind of left these things up to the federal government. And other than your normal states, the whack jobs like California, New York, Massachusetts, your typical ones that we don't really take for granted and don't take serious, you know, those guys always did their thing and we never paid any attention to them. I mean, I always was of the opinion, if you choose to live there, that's on you. You know, do something about it, vote these people out, or don't complain about it. Again, I'm sympathizing with my guys out there. We have a lot of people in California that are friends of ours, so I don't mean to say that you're on your own, but what I'm saying is, you know, vote these guys out. But now we're starting to see other states, including Louisiana. I live in Louisiana, and we're starting to see these states at the state level bring forth a lot of gun bills out there from the Senate side and the House side. And really, really, I mean, these things are carbon copies of what you're seeing the nut jobs in Washington, D.C. In the past, what they were doing. You know, we always looked at the Dianne Feinsteins, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, you know, all your typical whack jobs as being the ones that, hey, you know, they're going to put forth these crazy bills and, you know, we're just going to ignore them because they're never going to make it to our state level and we've got people watching out for us. Well, now it's a concerted effort at the state level. What's scary about that is the Second Amendment is designed that, and for those of you that know the Constitution, I'm not trying to preach to you, and I may not get this totally right, but I do understand it. The Second Amendment is basically written to, it's a federal law. Anything that is documented and outlined in the Constitution, the states can pass their own versions of these things, but they can never be, supposedly, they can never be more strict than what the federal Constitution is, which is completely baffling to me that we allow states like California to pass these infringing gun laws on their citizens whenever the federal government has already a Second Amendment that no one else is supposed to make even more stringent. Well, because they're allowing that to happen now, every other state is out there trying to do the same thing. And we're even seeing some of these states try to pass bills very similar to the federal government punting, basically. The Washington, D.C. politicians are kind of punting it to the states and telling the states, you deal with it, and they're kind of turning their back. Because Republicans don't want to vote for guns in Washington, D.C., even though they actively say they support guns. They don't want to actually cast a vote because they're afraid they're going to lose a couple of votes whenever it's time to be reelected. Again, it all centers around being reelected. The Democrats, well, you know, the ones in the crazy metropolitan areas that none of us really ever would live in, like your Baltimores, your San Franciscos, New York City, all these places like that, those people can talk about anti-gun laws because there's no pro-gun people that live in those small communities. Like, obviously, California has a lot of gun guys, but obviously in San Francisco, come on, there's not a whole lot there. You're talking about North California and further out in the rural areas where you have them. So it's like the federal government is afraid to actually vote on anything. And by the way, your other Democrats out in these other areas, they're hanging on by a thread. They're barely hanging on, they're barely holding on to their seats. So they're not wanting to vote against guns because they're afraid of those couple of, red districts that might still get a couple of votes for them. So they're scared also. So what's happening is we're seeing Washington, D.C. pretty much is they're running from their own responsibilities. And now the states are taking it upon themselves to do these very things, to pass these crazy infringing laws. And one of the laws that I saw in Louisiana they were trying to pass, again, usually your highest level of an amendment, so to speak, that's the one that supersedes anything. In other words, you can't be harsher than the highest level of amendment. So the Second Amendment is supposed to trump anything else infringing on your gun rights. But it doesn't, obviously, because most people are not following that. Most states are not following that. Well, the states, by doing the same thing, they're trying to kick it down to the municipal level and to the county or parish level and allow those people in independent areas to make their own laws and to make strict laws that might be more strict than these state laws. Again, that's not right. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Your federal law is supposed to trump state law, and your state law is supposed to trump municipal laws. Well, they're not doing it like that. Now the state is trying, our state anyway, Louisiana, is trying to pass a law that says, hey, this city, this parish, this town, you can pass more strict gun laws if you want to. We're going to allow that to happen. Now, you might be saying, so what? It's just like California. If you don't like it, leave. Well, it doesn't work that easily. I'm not going to accidentally pass through California as I'm driving somewhere else. That's just not going to happen. So there's no risk of me accidentally going through California with stupid, crazy, strict gun laws and accidentally getting in trouble. However, where I live down in the southwest corner of Louisiana, let's say I want to go to New Orleans, which, you know, there's a little bit of mystique. People think you want to go to New Orleans, but I was done with New Orleans whenever I was done drinking and getting drunk and partying with my friends. There's nothing for me in New Orleans that I want to go see. Let's just say I'm going there. Let's just say there's a gun convention over there. I have to pass through Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is a very red area. There's 90% Democrats that live there. It's a dump. Baton Rouge is not a good place. LSU is the only good thing about Baton Rouge. You know, there's areas outside of it, but for the most part, Baton Rouge isn't all that great. If I pass through Baton Rouge and somehow or another the mayor of Baton Rouge has passed a stricter gun law, maybe they pass a gun law that for some reason, doesn't allow me to carry a gun in my vehicle. Well, if I get pulled over for a busted tail light and I have a gun in my vehicle, who's to say I don't go to jail in Baton Rouge because I had a gun? I mean, you see my point? If you pass a law allowing municipalities, towns, cities, parishes, counties to pass their own individual laws that are all different, all throughout the state, they're all different. There's no way you can learn, I don't know, and I'm just pulling this number out of my head. I think we have 64 parishes. Boy, if that's right, that's amazing, because my Louisiana, I think I took Louisiana history in 8th grade. She would be very proud if I remember that. But I want to say we have 64 parishes here in Louisiana. That's 64 opportunities. That's just at the parish level. That's not including the towns and the cities in Louisiana. But that's 64 opportunities for me to risk breaking the law and going to jail because I don't have the time to investigate 64 different parishes' laws on guns. You guys are going to have that in all of your states also out there. Think about some of these other states out there. Think about a state like New York. I mean, obviously you guys are used to it. Upstate New York, you know, you got pro-gun people in upstate New York, then you got the city down below. Sure, you guys know don't drive into the city. Obviously, you get it. So you're accustomed to those types of crazy laws. You already kind of have that. But states like us in Louisiana, we've always had the same set of laws that apply to the entire state, and there was never a risk. In fact, if you look at our neighboring states, take Mississippi, Alabama, Florida down there, Texas obviously, Arkansas, all those states have very similar gun laws, almost identical to Louisiana. So if we're passing from one state to the other within I don't know, let's say a 7 or 8 hour radius of Louisiana driving wise, we're good. We're good to go. Now all of a sudden, if a salesman or somebody, which a salesman I could definitely see wanting to pack some heat on his side to make sure he was safe because he's staying in hotels and probably not the greatest places all the time, I could see him carrying a gun with him. Now a salesman that's going to spend all his time on the road is now going to have to investigate all these gun laws. And I know some people are thinking, well, ignorance is no excuse for the law. Well, you know what? It's not always blatant ignorance. Sometimes, again, I don't have time to investigate every single town, township, parish, county, city, ward. I don't have time to do all of that. And if they're going to allow those types of laws to pass and stick and allow them to be stricter than your actual state law, see, that's the thing. If you want to let all these municipalities and all these counties and parishes pass different gun laws, that's fine, as long as they're not stricter than your state law. Because then you know, all right, I just have to follow my state law and I'm good to go in all these other little areas. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to, again, allow these smaller areas to pass more restrictive gun laws. And actually, they're trying to encourage them to pass more restrictive gun laws. That's going to make felons out of a lot of us. or potentially make felons out of a lot of us, because we're not going to know that we're going into an area that has some goofy, screwed up law. Believe me, we have an idiot for a governor here in Louisiana, so this guy's going to allow stuff like that to happen. We have an idiot for a mayor down in New Orleans. I definitely don't want to run the risk of driving through New Orleans if something like this passes. So this is what they call definitely a slippery slope, because I could see some bad things happening throughout states, just within states. That's not even including crossing a border and going into somebody else's neighboring state. So anyway, it's scary to me. It's scary to me that those types of things are happening right now. I think it all boils down to the Michael Bloombergs, the anti-gun movement have recognized that we have a bunch of cowards in Washington, D.C. who don't want to own up to their own jobs and responsibilities and actually vote against these intrusive gun laws out there. So they see these cowards that are running and hiding in their offices. They see that. They see that these people do not want to address gun laws. Even if they are pro-gun people, they still don't want to touch it, because there's always this outside chance that they're going to get 1 or 2 votes against them, and oh my goodness, you're gonna lose your meal ticket. The anti-gun group has always seen that. I always have said this. As a conservative, I have constantly wondered why our side doesn't fight by the same set of rules that their side does. I'm talking about conservatives and pro-gun. You watch all of these people. When Barack Obama got elected twice, man, they pulled out all the stops. They ran some amazing campaigns. If they needed to get dirty, they got dirty. They slung mud. They hit you below the belt. They did everything they could. They looked at it as, if we're going to get into a fight, we're going to get into a fight to win. Where the conservatives are like, well, we're not going to stoop to that level. Stoop to that level. I've got no problem with that. You got to play by the same set of rules. If you're in school and you go fight somebody and they're constantly punching you below the belt, you're not going to win the fight if you don't punch him below the belt. You got to play by the same rules sometimes. And as conservatives and pro-gun people, we never play by the same set of rules. We never get angry. We never say, I've had it, this is enough. You got your Chuck Schumers up there, your Nancy Pelosi's, your Dianne Feinsteins. They wrinkle their brows and they sit there and talk down to everybody, and they're mad. We need to stop this, we need to stop that. Gun violence this, gun violence that. Have you ever seen a Republican get up there and get angry and say, this is bull crap? Quit blaming guns. Guns have nothing to do with it. You never see that, guys. We don't play by the same set of rules. They have rules, and they know it. The left knows it. They know that our guys are a bunch of pushovers. They sit there and watch them sit there and crumble all the time and never take any real responsibility and step up to the plate and do anything, and the left just walks all over the right. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, why don't we play by the same rules that these guys are playing by? We never do. The closest thing we've ever had to that is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, for all the good things that he says a few stupid things. I want to see somebody get up there who is a very intelligent person, knows all these policies and all that, but has a chip on their shoulder and doesn't care what anybody thinks that they say, and get up there and just hammer somebody. I'm talking about a good debater, somebody that's got, Ted Cruz is pretty good. Ted Cruz is a very intelligent guy. He's kind of creepy looking, but I am too. He would destroy somebody in a debate. And if you would get him mad and have him say what's really on his mind, I think he'd be the kind of guy that I could get behind, because he is so intelligent, and I do think that he has the debating skills to really hammer it home to somebody. Nobody else on the right does that. No conservative, no pro-gun guys. All the people out there who say they're pro-gun, none of them get angry whenever we're being attacked. Whenever there's something stupid that happens, nobody says, why are you blaming guns? This YouTube shooter, why isn't there a pro-gun guy out there going, hey guys, I want to say this because nobody else is talking about it. How come y'all don't care about this YouTube shooter? Is it because it doesn't fit y'all's narrative? Is it because the type of person that performed this shooting is one that you guys protect? A woman, a Muslim, an animal rights activist? You name it. Can you get any more left-leaning than this person that shot up, of all places, YouTube? And no one wants to talk about it. How come we don't have a Republican, or I don't care what party they're a part of, how come we don't have a pro-gun person sticking up and saying, hey man, how come nobody's talking about this? And call people out. Hey, Charles Schumer, You don't care about this? It's another shooting. By God, it's another shooting. No AR-15. It was a Muslim. It was a woman. It was a PETA person, an animal rights person. Clearly, they're a Democrat, obviously. Nobody's calling them out. Why doesn't somebody call them out? Why doesn't somebody on our side, why doesn't a pro-gun guy, if none of the, look, again, there are very few backbones in Washington, D.C. It's like when you walk through the city limits of Washington, D.C., suddenly your back just dissipates. It goes away. It turns to jelly because there are very few backbones. Make sure my battery's a little low here, guys. Very few backbones in Washington, D.C. So I get the fact that there are a bunch of cowards over there. But we got pro-gun guys all over the place on television, all these news outlets. How come nobody is standing up talking about this? I would make a big deal out of it. I would do a breaking headline news or something like that, and at the top of the hour, and talk about the YouTube shooter. No one wants to talk about it because, again, it doesn't fit their narrative. That drives me nuts. Again, we refuse to play by their rules. Now, you get somebody with an AR-15 that goes and shoots somebody tomorrow, or you get some white guy that goes and shoots, I don't know, shoots anything, shoots anybody. It's plastered everywhere. It's everywhere. You know, another thing that kind of got me, that the left was really torn whenever the Texas shooting happened. If you notice, nobody's really talking about the 26 people that were killed in the Texas church. You know why? Because it was a church. The left doesn't care about that. 26 people are killed. The only reason why they talked about it is because, number one, you couldn't ignore 26 people getting gunned down. And number two, there was an AR-15 involved. However, it's hard for them to talk about this story and blame the AR-15 because the guy who stopped the guy with the AR-15 murdering the 26 people also had an AR-15. So the left is like, okay, it's a shooting, but we can't talk about that one. Why? Because it's just not right. It doesn't fit. Because if we talk about this guy who shot this place up with an AR-15, somebody else is going to bring up the very fact that an AR-15 was used to stop the killing. We can't have that. So they don't talk about it. You notice that? They don't talk about that. There were 26 people killed in a church. There were 17 kids killed in a school. I don't know how you value life, but even if a life, when you have almost twice as many people killed, why is it more valuable that these children, look, I'm sorry, I've got a 9-year-old son. I would do anything. I would literally take a bullet for my son. Outside of my life, my son's life is no more valuable to anybody else than anyone else. My 9-year-old son's life is not worth, and I'm not talking about to me, because to me, his life is worth everybody else's put together. That's just, I'm sure most of you parents feel the same way. But outside of that, no offense, your 9-year-old child doesn't mean more to me than a 90-year-old man down the road. To me, I see a 9-year-old that I don't know and a 90-year-old that I don't know as equals. I don't choose between those two. I don't use this stupid logic that this 9-year-old's life is more valuable because he's got longer to go. You know what? There's a lot of knowledge in this 90-year-old man. What's to say that he's not more valuable because he's older and he knows more? I mean, I'm just saying, how do you value one over the other? I'm not in the practice of trying to value life. So I don't understand how the left is perfectly okay to brush under the rug 26 people being murdered in a church, and they're willing to let their main cause center around 17 high school kids that were killed and other adults. I don't understand the valuing, their value system. I don't know how that works. I'm not being facetious. I honestly don't know how that works or why they value that. I know it's more emotional, and I know liberals, I would say, tend to act on emotion. Liberals always act on emotion. It's straight emotion. That's how they operate on everything. So I guess I understand it in terms of that's how they grade stuff, but it still doesn't make sense to me because I'm a logical person and I use common sense to think about things. So I don't understand how they can use that type of logic to say that a school shooting is worth more to talk about. I think it's equally important to talk about 26 people who chose to go to a church, weren't forced to go there. Half those school kids, they don't want to be there. These 26 people chose to go to a church and were gunned down, and nobody wants to talk about it again because an AR-15 was used to stop this slaughter. The left's logic on things, you know, I tend to get into, and I know I aggravate probably, at least for sure, Chad, who is with us at Legally Armed America. It's because I don't let things go. I'm not that kind of person. I'm sorry. I've let things go in my lifetime, and wish I would have told people something. Now I tell people stuff. And you know, when these liberals get on our website, like on our YouTube, and they begin to say things about, you know, if you go look at any of our videos, liberals stumble across some of our videos, and of course they say stupid, hateful things on there. I'll let them have it. I'll bust their butts on there. I don't care. I'm not trying to win any friendship awards. I'm not trying to see how many mugs I can get from people at Christmas time. I'm not trying to see how many Christmas cards I can get. I'm out there trying to defend our Second Amendment rights, and if somebody doesn't like the way I do it, they can kiss my butt, because I feel like there's not enough of us playing by excuse me, their set of rules. They can get all emotional, they can get loud, they can get obnoxious, they can make it personal, they can do all these things. They can say that you want people, that you like people to be murdered, that you're a murderer, you got blood on your hands. They can say all that crap, and whenever you say one negative thing to them, they curl up into a little ball. You know, they're just, it's the most amazing thing to me. They can cast stones all day long at somebody who is completely innocent, but the moment you pick up on those rocks and throw one back, they lose it. They lose it. Now you're the bad guy. You know, it's because we don't ever go fight back. We don't ever give back the same medicine that they're giving to us, that they're not used to it. So when you do it, it feels really out of place to them, and they feel like, oh wow, this is new, so this can't be right. You know, if we constantly attack them the same way they attack us, with the same, they have their rhetoric and their bullet points, because we're using logic and reason, we've actually got facts. We should hammer them with the facts constantly. Beat them over the head with the facts. Figuratively, of course, for any liberals that are watching out there. I'm not talking about beating somebody over the head, but beat these people over the head with facts. Tell them, no, this is the fact. You're not going to sit here and use all these platitudes and all of these bullet points that you've heard on MSNBC or CNN about guns that are totally inaccurate. One of our videos that we have out there right now, we basically take, I think, 5 of the stupid things that the media has been saying, and we either debunk them or we explain them away. Well, some liberals have gotten a hold of that video. I think there's 60-something thousand views on it. And if you go down there and read the comments, some liberals are reading it. You know, they're saying it's the same stupid stuff. Guns need to be banned. You people will have blood on your hands. All this stupid stuff. They don't understand any of that. Repeal the Second Amendment. They have no idea what is involved in repealing an amendment. None. It blows my mind that how quickly these people are willing to give up their own rights just because they don't agree with you. Not realizing that you start attacking that amendment and the others are all fall in line. They're all susceptible to that. Guys, what I'd like to do is, we're going to, I think I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We're going to start trying to get you guys a little bit more involved. What I would like to do is try to get one viewer, probably once a week or once every other week we'll do this. But I'd like to get one viewer that has, you know, comes on here. I recognize a lot of you guys' names on here. But bring you on to the Google Hangouts format that we've had a couple of times on here. I think that'd be really cool. It can almost be like a one-person audience, so to speak. And if it works and it becomes where you guys are happy with it, I think I have room for 4 or 5 people that we can bring in as an audience. So we might start having our own live audience. Aside from the chat room that you guys are already interacting in, we would actually have your video and your audio on screen where everybody else could see. And I'm really wanting to start toying with that. I think next week what I'm going to do is try to pick one of you guys to come on here. And basically I will still do all of my show and talk about all these topics, but we'll take feedback from that person along with some of your questions that you're reading out there. And, you know, we'll let that person interact with us. And again, maybe we work our way up to having 4 or 5 of you guys on here. That in addition to having guests, other guests on the show, other notable people that might be either YouTubers or attorneys or people in the gun industry, gun owners, gun manufacturers out there. Invite them on, let them talk about their new products and things of that nature. I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be fun. It'd bring more of an interactive phase of what we're doing to everybody. So I guess what I'd like to do is, if any of you guys are interested in next Friday night being live with me, what I'd like you to do is send me an email. Send me an email to paul@legallyarmedamerica.com. Again, paul@legallyarmedamerica.com. And tell me, yeah, I'd like to be on the show, and explain a little bit. I know it sounds corny, but explain why. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your background. Maybe list, if you have a YouTube or a Facebook page or something like that, list it so I can go look at it. I may ask you some questions about some of the stuff that you do. Maybe you're a competitive shooter. Maybe you're a garage gunsmith. You work on your own stuff. Maybe you're a police officer. Maybe you are a train engineer, something of that nature. Just some things that we can actually talk about. So if you would send me an email, again, paul@legallyarmedamerica.com, I think it'd be cool, and I'll go through all those names and put in the subject of the email, guest. Just type in bold letters, guest, and it's GUEST. Type that in there. That way I can filter through that, and I'll try to find, I'll pick somebody and get you on the show next week. I'll set it up ahead of time and explain to you how to set up Google Hangouts to where I can send you the invitation and you can just log on. You will need to have a good internet connection, and you will need to have obviously a webcam. Either you can use your phone, obviously. I think it's more stable if you use like a laptop or a desktop with a camera on it. I think it's a little bit more stable, and the desktop version and the laptop version are easier to manage. Obviously, if you're using it to do something like this that's interactive. So I would suggest that try to do it that way if you can. I do think the app will work. I just don't know how stable and easy to use it is. I don't think it's real intuitive. But yeah, send me an email, explain that to me, what that you'd like to be on the show, and I'll happily choose one of you guys, and we'll start working towards that. And hopefully we can get to the point where we have like a room full of people who are actually live also, and that actually might help me as well. We might start making one of you guys the actual I know we have a couple of you that are moderators out there now, but we might be able to have you actually be a video moderator and just pretty much monitor the questions that are in the room. And if you see something that's pertinent to what we're talking about, interrupt me and basically say, hey, we've got a question from so-and-so, and you read the question. That would actually be a help to me as well. So again, any of you that might be interested in doing that, shoot me an email, paul@legallyarmedamerica.com. Again, guys, because I'm shooting this from my phone tonight, and I do apologize, I'm not prepared because I cannot find my my big iPad, my maxi pad. I can't find it, and that's usually what I can use to read you guys' comments. I can't read any of them. I'm watching the comments flowing right now, and I see that there are comments, but I don't see any letters or any words. I'm that blind. So again, I apologize for not addressing any of your comments tonight. That's my fault. I will be more prepared next week. But again, it's because I was down putting decals on the Jeep trying to do some work, and I lost track of time. I'm going to head back down there, guys, and work on that. I really want to wrap that up this weekend. If you're in the Lake Charles area, be on the lookout. It's going to be a really cool looking Jeep. Again, it's white, and it's got kind of the digital urban camo, black and gray, all on the side. And eventually it's going to have, you'll see it. I'm going to show you pictures. It's going to look cool. If you don't follow us already on Instagram, Facebook, Gun District, and Twitter, go check us out, follow us there, because I do post a lot of the pictures there. Obviously on YouTube, we don't have the ability to do those things and post those kinds of things. So if you're wanting to stay updated on what we're doing to the Jeep and some of the other things that we do, follow us on some of those other social media outlets, and stay in touch with us that way. So guys, I hope you all have a safe and good Friday evening, weekend. The weather's starting to change all over the country. I know down here we have rain, but we are in springtime temperatures, and it's starting to get really nice outside. Hopefully you guys will be able to get out there and get to the range and have a little bit of fun out there. Be safe if you go to the range this weekend, guys. Take an old person, take a child to the range, teach them how to shoot, teach them a little bit about gun safety if you can. Always something cool to do if you can. And you may be thinking that an old person's not interested in going to the range. You'd be surprised. Somebody that grew up with the ability and the freedom to go out and shoot a gun on a regular basis might really appreciate the fact that you're inviting them out to go. I don't care if it's plinking, shooting skeet, whatever it is. You may really make somebody's day if you invite them out to the gun range and say, hey, you want to go shoot a couple of guns? They might surprise you. You might see somebody go, yeah, you know what, that's a great idea. So again, guys, have a great weekend. We will for sure see you next Friday night. Again, hopefully I have some guests on here, or at least one guest from you guys on here. I'm looking forward to that. Again, have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the weather. If it's bad weather, be safe. in the bad weather, and we will catch up with you guys next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.